My name is Wyatt, and this is What Happened. This is a series that takes aim on movies that could have been really great, but turned out exactly as you remember them. They could have had an all-star director, the best writer in the business, but somehow these ingredients mixed together and made disappointment. I'm here to identify the exact moment to the time code where it went wrong, and try and pick apart why.
I don't like sand.
After more than enough research, I believe that the characters and the story structure are completely at fault for this movie not working and falling apart at the time code that it fell apart. During the video, we are going to dissect why those two things led to the demise of Jumper. Maybe pick on the movie a little bit, just a little bit. And right before we dive in here, I think it's worth noting that I picked this movie because as a kid, I always really liked it, but I think it always fell short of being really good, and it was always hard to identify exactly why. And the idea behind the concept of the show is not to make fun of really bad movies, although there is a little bit of that at play here. It is to find something to love about every single movie and identify if the movie was bad, how much good was in it before it turned bad. And one of the best ways we can educate ourselves on making a good movie is kind of by studying the bad ones. Nobody who's working on a movie wants to make a bad movie. And when a movie comes out and it's not really well received, sometimes a lot of the good work is overshadowed. And with that, we're going to start with why this movie had a tremendous amount of potential. Pretty solid cast. Rachel Bilson had Sam Jackson, had Mary Poppins himself, Michael Rooker, and Hayden Christensen. All right, maybe that's not a win. I don't hate him. You shouldn't hate him. Just be nice to him. He doesn't always... Just leave him alone. Just leave him alone. If you want to point your hate at an actor, just point it at Vin Diesel. I think he's pretty awful. Even the actors that are playing the younger versions of the leads in this movie, and that's Anna Sophia Robb and Max Theria, they're pulling their weight. They're doing a good job. The movie's underperformance often overshadows its excellent special effects. They had a great blend of practical and CGI, which is really rare, especially during a period of time when movies were so heavily dependent on CGI that it was distracting. Attack of the CGI Rubber Man, am I right? Whoop! John Powell arranged the score. He's one of the best composers working today. He just finished work on Solo. That was a movie. Doug Liman is directing, made famous by Swingers, made even more famous by The Bourne Identity, and even more famous by Live, Die, Repeat, or The Edge of Tomorrow, or whatever title this movie has that it's really hard to figure out for some reason. Why is it hard to figure out the movie title? We have all of these components, and for some reason they didn't work out. So let's figure out where it happened, or what happened, or who did it, or who done it. Before we get started, just a fun thing I noticed. They called David's character Rice Bowl a lot.
Holy crap, Rice Bowl! Come on, Rice Bowl, don't be stupid!
Holy crap, Rice Bowl? Hey, everybody, it's Rice Bowl!
What a burn that is. That hurts just to think of someone calling me Rice Bowl. Stings. In my opinion, this movie was firing on all cylinders and was pumping out a really great story until 1550 exactly, when he jumps in the middle of a crowded bar. I will repeat that. He teleports in the middle of a crowded bar while he is undercover. Why do you do that? Look at me, 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 look at me. Why do you do that? That's dumb. Okay, that's just really stupid, but that's not the exact moment. I believe, with all my skills...
Very particular set of skills.
...that 2556 is the exact moment where everything here went wrong. Otherwise known as the exact moment Rachel Bilson shows up in the movie. Now, it's not her fault. But her version of the Millie character shows up. And no, I'm not blaming the character, so to speak. I think the problem really is the love story. It just doesn't belong. And I'll get more into it. First, one more small jab. Millie runs into an old high school crush. Just a crush, not like a, I don't know, boyfriend or whatever. Crush, and within an hour is running off to Rome with him after he mysteriously died. What? In 1 hour goes from not being dead to going on a Roman vacation. You don't ask any questions? That's how people become lampshades. Everything up to this point in the movie, 2556, is nearly beat for beat like the novel it's based on, Jumper by Stephen Gould. The setup is excellent. All the chess pieces are in play. No, I'm not pointing that out because movies based on novels should stick to the source material. No, I don't believe that at all. I'm merely implying that in this case, when they were sticking to the source material, the story structure was significantly better. In the novel, there are no such thing as paladins. That's the elite team of super Christians led by Mace Windu that the Jumpers are being hunted by. They're completely created just for this film, and they're not the issue either. In fact, I don't even think it's a bad idea to have a group of evil Christians hunting teleporters. That's a really interesting and unique concept. If they were to add in the paladins and turn it into a war, as Jamie Bell's character suggests that it was.
What happened to the war?
Yet the actual movie doesn't really illustrate a war. They just go, it's a war, and then it's not a war. That would have been way more interesting, but the romantic plot wedges itself in and demands all of the attention. Yes, this is still the same romantic plot where a couple hooks up less than 12 hours after being reunited and take, for all intents and purposes, is just a relaxing Roman holiday while evil Christians are hunting you after you just escaped with your life. No investigating, no hiding, just go on vacation. That's smart. I think it was honestly just an excuse to have a really cool fight scene in the Coliseum. When I wrote the script here, I put quotation marks around cool. When you decide to take two viable plot directions, either romance or evil Christians, and try and jam them both in with only an hour and 10 minutes left in your story, your ass better have laid the groundwork during that opening hard. What's frustrating is that there was groundwork laid out for an excellent movie, and then after the opening was filmed, someone just turned to someone else and said, wouldn't it be just crazy if we stopped here and made a different movie? No. How about two different movies? Okay, let's do that. Alright, enough scrutiny. Let's dissect this and then some educated analysis, and then back to scrutiny. Let's talk about characters. In my opinion, one of the biggest issues here. To have interesting characters in your movie, you should have the protagonist take an active role in the conflict, either in causing it, or resolving it, or both. Before the 2556 mark, this is working swimmingly. David discovers that he has a superpower, he tests it, he uses it to better his life, and leave all of his abusers behind. This is active. After the 2556 mark, it becomes a melodrama where bad things just happen to David. The paladins find him and he just ignores it, and when they show up a second time, Jamie Bell has to save his life. Yes, I keep calling him Jamie Bell because his character is so effing forgettable that I genuinely can't remember his name. Alright, I'm gonna Google it. Forgot it again. While we're talking about Jamie Bell, his character also just happens into David's life because he finds David. David doesn't actively seek him out as someone who can help him or go on a manhunt for people with information about the people pursuing David, aka the Paladins. Just Jamie Bell ex machina around every single freaking corner. It's important to give your characters flaws to overcome. An easy example could be Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy. It's easy to see that he intentionally pushes people away because he's afraid of letting them get too close, and he has to overcome that flaw to form the family. You get it. Along with their flaw, they should also have a want, and that want should be bad for them in some kind of way, and a need, something that they either don't want or don't realize that they actually need. The way the movie presents it to me, his big character flaw is just textbook stupidity. Like when he jumped at a crowded bar full of people. David should have a flaw that he needs to overcome, a lesson that he needs to learn in the movie that lets him overcome his flaw and resolve the overall conflict. But you just can't fix stupid, can you? Up until 2556, he was very smart, forward-thinking, perceptive, except at 1550, when he jumps at a crowded bar full of... His want is to be left alone to pursue his girlfriend, and his need is to be smarter? Or maybe to just don't endanger your high school crush's life by going after them? I don't know. There, found it. Boom! Now you can see that up to the 2556 mark, the characters were working, and at that point, they kind of stopped working. Now, story structure. As the movie presents it to us, this is our story structure. The normal world. David lives with his abusive father and is bullied at school. There's an inciting incident where he discovers that he has a superpower and leaves town. The point of no return. So this is where Roland breaks into David's house. The point of no return is supposed to be the part of the movie where something happens and the character has no choice but to go on the journey because the normal world is no longer accessible to them. And the film here actually does this just fine. But right after this scene, David returns to the town that rejected him as an adolescent teenager. That's what I don't really get. He ran away from this place because it was supposed to be abusive. He had bullies there. He had his abusive father there, alcoholic father even. As soon as his brand new, sparkly, awesome life goes awry, he runs back to there. That just, for his character, makes no sense. This is intercut with Roland finding a picture of her in David's apartment. What that means for the story is as soon as David goes back to his hometown and sees Millie, he has sealed her fate because the Paladins are coming after her now too. He has created a situation that he can't come back from because the Paladins are coming for the both of them now. No matter what David was going to do, they were going to find that photo and they were going to come after her as well. This is still good story structure. This is conflict. Stories need conflict to keep going forward. The film's protagonist should be responsible for their own turmoil. It makes it more interesting. But if you don't resolve why they made that crucial error, or they don't grow from that mistake, then the character just comes across as an idiot. David Rice is an idiot. Yeah, Rice Bowl, dummy. Then we come to the midpoint. This is where the main character is supposed to take hold of his or her destiny. Dun, 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 AKA make some kind of decision, any kind. But because of how the point of no return was somewhat botched, everything else in the movie just kind of comes across as silly, because here Jamie Bell shows up because David is an idiot and jumped in a crowded bar full of people. Jamie Bell finds him and knows that there's another jumper out here, so he starts to hunt him down. Jamie Bell just shows up unannounced into David's life and saves him in Rome out of the kindness of his own boredom. David's big decision, which is at this point in the movie he should be making some kind of decision, is to follow him and ask him questions because, well, heck, this guy's a whole lot smarter than me. I'm just a rice bowl. Then we should come across the big gloom, which is the all is lost moment. Millie is kidnapped. I know, it's crazy. But this is really not that surprising because no matter what David did through the course of the movie, her fate was sealed when Roland found her photo in David's house. So as soon as we saw that in the point of no return, we knew it was coming. So it wasn't a big, all is lost moment. We were just waiting for that to happen. He could have just jumped himself into space to get away from the evil Christians, and they still would have snatched up Millie because that photo was the best lead that they had, and the audience knew that. Because we saw this moment coming as an audience, it does not pack any emotional punch. And it was expected to, because they treat it that way. And the climax comes around, David jumps an entire house into an old library and saves his girlfriend. Or kind of girlfriend. They broke up. I don't really know what they are. And the new normal is David says hi to his mom. Woo! And David gets a girlfriend. Woo! Sudden Kirsten Stewart. This is a really good time to point out that a story structure is very acutely wired. Just one grain of sand and the microchip is compromised. Chris Traeger reference for you. Boom. So based on the character issues and based on everything after the 2556 mark being a domino effect of what happened before the 2556 mark, I think this movie had a ton of potential and it's really sad that it did not work out. I was inspired to do this particular video because that new show Impulse came out and I watched the first couple episodes and it's actually really interesting and it's based in that world, in that Jumper universe. And it's also produced by Doug Liman. I truly believe that if up to the 2556 mark, if instead of just completely going 180 and going back home, made active character choices to try and investigate and discover, and maybe still bump into Jamie Bell at some point, this movie could have really gone somewhere that David's character could have grown. When I was researching this, I got way too into it and I developed an alternate take. From the 2556 mark, I developed a new story that used the characters from this movie and just took it the natural direction the story structure was leading it into. So if anyone wants to see that, let me know. If you don't, I won't do it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I enjoyed figuring out where exactly it went wrong. I think it's interesting sometimes when you're watching a movie and you're totally on board and you're totally invested and then just something happens and sometimes it's hard to identify where. And that's why I started with the characters and then moved on to the story structure. If you like this video and want to see other videos like it, comment below on any movie that you think we should dissect here over at Screenplay. I've been Wyatt. I'll probably still be Wyatt next time I do one of these videos. This is my argument for why Jumper has 25 minutes of a good movie in it. See you next time.